Although you may have heard of Vigier guitars in the past, I can guarantee you've never seen this white Vigier Marilyn anywhere on YouTube. This is a supremely crafted guitar with several hidden features that contribute to its luxury price tag. Now, when you get to this level of craftsmanship, objective comparisons between better or worse simply disappear and only preferences remain. So although I don't prefer every aspect of this instrument, I understand and will share the amazing features that contribute to its beautiful design. And if you've watched my past video on Vigier guitars, you will know that this company is the king of special features. So today we'll debut my special feature tracker to accurately record all of the Marilyn's unique, luxurious design elements. Let's get started. Oh, and you probably expected to get this.
Nope.
As I start from the headstock and work my way down to the end pin, the first thing I noticed on this guitar was the paint job. At first glance it appears to be white, but as you look closer you'll see that there's a glitter in the paint. Now, if you've watched my past videos, you'll know I almost never dwell on paint jobs, but in this case I have to make an exception. The sparkle is subtle enough as to not attract more attention than any other white guitar would, yet it only takes a glance to appreciate its beauty. Also, it's a gloss finish, so you can't actually feel the glitter and it won't get on your hands and clothes as the guitar ages. At the same time, however, this gloss is very different than typical gloss finishes. It's smoother and harder than any of the glosses I've tried in the past. It's also dried for a minimum of 5 weeks and it doesn't stick to your hands when you play it, like other glosses have a tendency to do. So although I usually prefer a satin finish, in the case of Vigier guitars, I prefer this very beautiful and comfortable gloss varnish. The headstock features a black Vigier logo, black tuners, which both look stunning on this sparkle white finish. Both the Vigier V and the serial number on the back are plates, but you can't see exactly how they are fastened to the headstock, which in my opinion adds a level of class and mystery to the whole aesthetic we have going here. Now, I personally would have preferred locking tuners, but at the same time, I do think that the extra bulk of locking tuners may have taken away from the whole aesthetic, the whole sleekness of the headstock design. And of course, if you buy your own Vigier Marilyn, you can get locking tuners if that's what you would like. By the way, if you like this very nerdy guitar talk, you'll probably enjoy my free Guitarcraft newsletter. I will link it below. As we move from the headstock down, you'll notice a few of the special features. First, we have a Teflon nut, and Teflon is a nonstick material that you've probably encountered if you've owned a nonstick pan. It's also used in many other places where a low friction surface is desirable, and this should stop the strings from binding in the nut, which can happen with other guitars. The Teflon nut is also easily interchangeable since it's held in place with a small nub and string tension alone instead of glue. Vigier sells these individual nuts, and on the back of each nut there's a series of dots that tells you exactly what string gauge the nut was cut for. As a result, you'll always have a perfectly cut nut to accompany your evolving string gauge preferences. And this will be a good time to mention that superior quality and a luxurious experience isn't always about inventing new ideas. It can simply be about refining and or perfecting prior designs. So no, Vigier didn't invent Teflon nuts, but I've never seen an interchangeable nut system quite like this. This guitar also features a 0 fret, which again Vigier didn't invent. That being said, this 0 fret improves on prior iterations of the design. 0 frets have a tendency to wear out both quickly and unevenly because it's constantly functioning in an area of high pressure and wear. The Vigier 0 fret is hardened stainless steel, which dramatically decreases, if not outright eliminates, the possibility of it wearing out. But just in case it does wear out eventually, the nut is also segmented so that you can replace only the worn section if you so choose. A bag of these stainless steel segments will cost a couple of dollars and would ensure that this guitar can function for several lifetimes. The rest of the neck also has stainless steel frets that are absolutely perfect in terms of their finishing, leveling, fret ends. I mean, I've never found a fret flaw on any Vigier guitar that I've ever tried, and this one is no exception. In my prior Vigier video, I was shocked at how remarkably low one could set the action, and a few commenters speculated that they just use a Plek machine and high attention to detail. I later learned from a former Vigier employee, DJ Shelley, that the company doesn't use a Plek machine at all. How do we get the action on these instruments so low? How do we get the leveling? How do we get these frets so good on VJ guitars?
So a big person involved with the evolution of Vigier was Patrice's dad, Georges Vigier. Early on, he and Patrice basically built a machine that helps them with the fret leveling and the crowning. And so it's their own thing. It's one of one. They don't let me take pictures of it when I go to the factory. That's it. And it does vary a little bit, but we're talking about like hundredths of a millimeter. So in terms of getting the action super low, the thing really is that the neck doesn't move because of the 1090 system. So you can slam it, and like if you did that on a similarly spec'd instrument that didn't have as stable a neck, if it wasn't as dry, if the body wasn't as dry, if it didn't have the carbon, you might not perceive that the neck moved, but a little move can, when we're talking about tenths of a millimeter, hundredths of a millimeter, it might not feel like it moved, but it moved enough that now you're fretting out half of your neck.
I also borrowed this guitar for the review from DJ, so thank you to him for loaning me it for the review. The fretboard is listed as fennel wood, which, as I understand it, is a combination of a laminate and resin. And without getting into the technical details, I can tell you that it feels enjoyably smooth and hard without feeling sticky like a gloss finish. It reminds me of the composite fretboards that I find on my Parker guitars, but at the same time, it isn't like Richlight, which I have found to be kind of dull and not smooth feeling like this. So it has a very glassy, smooth finish, and you notice that when you're bending. Guitars are also bolt-ons that utilize their 1090 neck system, which is 10% carbon and 90% maple. Each piece of maple is dried for at least 3 years to ensure stability, and the carbon reinforcement adds additional stability to the neck. And also, this neck doesn't have a truss rod. It's intended to be perfectly straight and completely insusceptible to changes in temperature and humidity. Simply put, if you're someone like me who doesn't like to adjust truss rods and you just want a straight neck to be that way forever, this is the guitar for you. Once you set your string height, you're pretty much set no matter where you're traveling. In fact, I say that these guitars maintain a level of tuning stability that can possibly be matched, but definitely not surpassed, because you can't get more perfect than perfect. All VGA necks also have the same D profile, which I find very comfortable. It's plenty fast, but it's not the overly thin necks that we often see with shredder designed instruments. Now for me, the most shocking thing about this guitar is the body, and that's because it's quite misleading. It looks like a bulky metal guitar like a BC Rich or a Dean, but when you have the guitar in your hands and against your body, you'll notice that although it is substantial, it is still kind of petite and doesn't feel bulky or awkward whatsoever. In fact, it's surprisingly comfortable and ergonomic. Now, I already did an entire video on the ergonomics of this particular guitar. I will link it right up here, so I won't rehash any of that info. But I will say that if you like to sit in the classical position with your left foot elevated, like I've been sitting for this entire video, if you like this position, then this guitar is the perfect fit for you. In addition to being very, very comfortable and being able to get from the 1st fret to the 24th fret without having to stretch in any way, this extended forearm also gives you a lot of length to play along the string. So whether you're doing some type of palm muting or fancy tapping, this long forearm is going to serve you really, really well. And I really didn't see that as a feature until I actually sat with this instrument. And even in this classical position, the strap pin location right here isn't bothersome whatsoever. And by the way, these strap pins have brass casings that insert deep into the body instead of the standard screws we get on other guitar designs. It's a small feature, but I know for a fact you've done the whole toothpick wood glue thing when your strap pins wear out. We've all been there, we've all done that. you'll never have to do that with this particular style of guitar. The shallow hardtail bridge is as sturdy as you would expect, reliable, and all the electronics are, of course, top quality, reliable, no issues whatsoever. The pickups on this guitar are DiMarzio X2Ns, and they are very high output. And judging by the location of the neck pickup, I pretty much expect that this guitar was designed to be played mostly in the bridge pickup with a lot of gain. But of course, I mostly play clean stuff, so now, whenever I review an expensive piece of gear on this channel, be it an amplifier or a guitar, there's always many guitarists in the comment section who are saying that there's no way they would ever pay that much money for whatever piece of gear I'm demoing that day. And that's totally fine. I really understand, and I'm not forcing you to buy any expensive gear that you don't want. That being said, we have to admit that electric guitar players can be, well, cheap. And if you've ever played music with a violinist, a cellist, or a bass player, you'll know that the guitar community as a whole is really spoiled because we can get a lot of high quality things for very little money. I mean, a very cheap set of cello strings is around $50, and an expensive set of cello strings can cost $200-$300 and far more. And I know cello strings last a lot longer than guitar strings, but just stick with me here, okay? So, of course, a lot of people in the guitar community today ask questions like, why would you ever buy a guitar like this one when you can get another guitar with a roasted neck and stainless steel frets and locking tuners for well under $1,000? And then you can buy a composite nut and you can buy expensive pickups, and the guitar, even modded, would still be well under $1,000. And that's a very good question. Why buy a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 VGA when you can buy one of those other guitars for well under $1,000? Well, let's explore that logic. This is a fairly inexpensive guitar you may recognize. I bought it about 4 months ago. It has stainless steel frets. It has a roasted maple neck. When I first got this guitar, it was essentially perfect. But less than 4 months later, there are a few areas that are not ringing as well. The fret ends are already beginning to sprout. They're a lot sharper than when I first got it. And to be honest, this is still a very playable guitar. But keep in mind that it's been sitting in my house for 3 of those 4 months, and I've only played it a handful of times, and yet it's already starting to show a few signs of wear. And to take this a little bit further, I have another very similar guitar to this, same brand, and it's currently sitting on Reverb right now, and it's probably never going to sell for the price I listed it for. It's essentially brand new and it's listed for a slight discount. But once you factor in shipping, tax, reverb's cut, I will probably lose money on that brand new guitar if it ever sells. So in other words, it has no value. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm very happy that companies like this exist that are offering affordable guitars that are very good quality. And when I first started playing guitar 19 years ago, I would have been very happy to buy this guitar for the money it cost. And I also don't believe that every $4,000 guitar is worth its price tag. But I can say that when it comes to Vigier guitars in particular, you get more than what you pay for. The extreme attention to detail they place on drying their woods for years and drying their varnishes for weeks, it slows down the production time and the output, and it increases the price of these instruments. But you know for a fact when you get a Vigier guitar, the reliability is definitely going to be there, the longevity is going to be there, and if you change your mind, you still have amazing resale value. And to me, that's why you buy a guitar for this amount of money. And of course, Vigier does make standard shaped guitars, so if you want to go on an even longer Vigier deep dive and learn more about my favorite dream Vigier instrument, you want to check out this video right up here. By the way, I'm Andre Flood, and I'll talk to you soon.